Oh, okay. We are at our penultimate activity on this stage for the day. We are having our Asian American food panel. So we'll be having that for about the next 25 minutes, and that will be followed by our final activity today, which will be the raffle. So if you have your fingers crossed and have been anxiously waiting for a raffle, please enjoy the conversation between Eric and I, and then the raffle will immediately follow. Alright, so we'll get started with our Asian American food panel. Let's have a quick round of applause. Asian food, indeed. Alright, so yes, I am Julian Avenilla, and I will be moderating this panel, but I aim to not be the spotlight of the conversation today. I am joined by two amazing food professionals here, on my left and right, who I will briefly introduce. So first, on my right, on your left, I have Eric Cho. Eric is the head of retail sales at Porto Foods, where he has spent the past decade helping grow the company from a local favorite into a national recognized leader in plant-based foods. With a background that spans urban planning, design, and corporate food strategy, Eric brings a unique perspective to the world of sustainable food. He's passionate about supporting local food systems, building strong retail partnerships, and ensuring the versatility of tofu, lula, and other soybean-based foods. Outside of work, Eric is an avid music lover and finds inspiration in new genres and live shows. He also grew up in the 1980s in New England, fond memories of tofu and other Asian ingredient shopping trips to New York City and Boston Chinatown for his time in France. Let's give a round of applause for Eric. All right. And on my left, your right, we have Febi. Febi, her pronouns, is an Indonesian-American fermentation enthusiast based in unceded Amayatish Olore land, or also known as San Francisco. She started Reculture Food as a pandemic activity and craft tempeh apple, bread food for friends and family. Soon after, it became an exploratory project opening her to the living world of fermentation while merging relationships with family and the ancestral land. She is most interested in the cultural lens of tempeh and the stories and people that appear at Fine Taylor make the superfood. She enjoys watching space shows and walking at Golden Gate Park. Similar to tempeh, her ideal temperature is 88 degrees. Let's give a warm welcome to Febi. Very glad to have Eric and Febi up with us. So the topics today both will be focusing just on a brief introduction of tofu and tempeh. Then I want to specifically ask you about your work, some like trends or things that you're seeing in the soy, tofu, tempeh, and food space in general. And then we'll kind of try to finish up with talking about Asian American community and identity. So that will be the conversations I'll have today. So first I'll start with Eric and then pass to Febi. What motivated you, actually let's back up. So what was your first experience with tofu, tempeh, or soy products, and how did it shape your relationship with it? Starting with Eric.
Okay, mic check. Thanks everybody for being here. So to answer your question, I'll give in the introduction that Julian just gave. I grew up in New England, and basically we were one of maybe 3 Asian American families, like literally it's very different from the Bay Area. So tofu was one of the first, one of the first Asian ingredients that, growing up, my parents used to take my brother and I in a car looking for Asian ingredients. There were no 99 ranches. You couldn't find tofu in Whole Foods. You basically had to drive 2 hours east to New York, or west of New York, or east to Boston. So that was my first introduction to tofu growing up. And I was also a pretty picky eater. So tofu was one of the few things that I liked growing up. That was basically something I grew up eating. It's an Asian ingredient. So I had pizza, spaghetti, and tofu. That was my diet as a school kid.
Hello. Can you all hear me fine? Cool. That sounds like an amazing balanced diet, Eric. Spaghetti and tofu. Sure. So my first exposure to tempeh tofu, that's a good question because I can't really remember in that it's always been so embedded in some ways in family life, particularly with tempeh. My mom, who is mostly the culture keeper in the family, she never fermented her own tempeh, but she would cook with it a lot. So different marinades, fried tempeh, even fried it was always since I was a very young child. And it wasn't until I moved out of Southern California and here to the Bay, and I didn't really see a strong presence of tempeh mostly. Definitely saw Odo and really paved the way for a lot of soy products, including tempeh. And then so it wasn't until really that I came to the Bay that I realized that lack of presence of tempeh. So then I was like, where is the tempeh that tastes like the tempeh that my mom would cook with? Like, where is that? And so my mom just encouraged me to, why not ferment it yourself? And that kind of was the question that's happening. So that's a little bit about the story around culture.
Thank you so much for sharing, Eric. I mean, so I think from both your experiences, you can really see that depending on where you live in the United States, it really informs what soy products you have access to, the effort that you need to go in order to get it. So it's, yeah, I myself grew up in Maryland, so I did not really get introduced to soy until really this festival. So it was a big for me when I was 18 or 19 getting that. And that kind of transitions into my next question is, particularly for you, Eric, you're mentioning that you had to travel quite hard to get these products. And then for you, even though you had it when you were growing up, San Francisco and the Bay Area was not as accessible. Was that something that when you were thinking about the work that you're doing now, is that something that motivated you to get into the work you're doing now, like accessibility? What really brought you to the work that you're doing today?
I think that's a great question. For me, it was an interesting kind of 360 degrees. Like, I joined Hodo first more out of, I gotta say, almost convenience. I worked on the peninsula. It was my last job before working at Hodo. And commuting in the Bay Area is nuts, right? So I'm living in the East Bay, having to drive down the peninsula. And basically it was like an hour and a half commute, but I was driving by all these warehouses on my way to work. And I was like, wow, if I worked in one of these warehouses, I'd be at work already. I could be home in like 10 minutes. So I was actually kind of thrown out to the universe. I was like, boy, I'd love to have a job just here and like work at one of these warehouses. And all my jobs prior to Hodo, this could be a long answer, but basically it was huge corporate units, huge projects, huge teams, huge organizations. So I was like, wow, if I could work for a small team in one of these warehouses, that'd be pretty neat. So I met our founder, Vin Tsai. Our kids actually went to a Chinese preschool together. So there's a cultural connection there. So we had the same Chinese preschool. And we just met each other through a kid's birthday party. And I was at a birthday party that Vin threw. Kids were probably 4 years old. They're all in college now. But 4 years old. And one of the events was basically like a potato sack. But rather than potato sacks, they were actually soybean bags. They had all these soybean bags. And then the food, the spread, was unbelievable. It was like, what was it? Just like amazing salads, like gourmet food, left, right. It was like a foodie spread for a kid's birthday party. And I was like, wow, what are these? Like, I work in the food industry. And what's the soybean bags? I was like, I have a tofu. Didn't think anything of it. So basically about 8 years later, the opportunity came up. And he was like, hey, you want to talk about Hodo? And at the time it was right, and that's literally how I joined the company. But since joining Hodo, I think about growing up, think about the experience of my parents, growing up in New England, and even tofu. Like tofu is like I've had to take tofu and sell it back to Connecticut, back to West Hartford, Connecticut, back to Whole Foods. And the fact that my local Whole Foods now, growing up, has our products available, and my high school teachers and people that go to they're eating our tofu back in Connecticut. So it's unbelievable. So it's kind of like a full circle. It wasn't what drove me there. Maybe like subliminally, like that my mind is that drew me to food. But I think it's really kind of been an amazing dimension that's kind of come full circle.
Sure. So on the topic of accessibility, this is extremely important for agriculture. So the history of tempeh, essentially in very short minutes, is that It was brought to the US through the counterculture movement in the 60s and 70s, kind of maybe similar to other soy products, where essentially white vegans went to the East and there you are, and then came back to the US bringing this amazing superfood and product, right? Unfortunately, there was not a lot of credit that tempeh was originally from Indonesia. This is the archipelago that my parents are from, culture. And so kind of the lens that Reculture Foods adopts is this idea that it's a kind of a reclamation kind of project and also a way for us to create this access, mostly because tempeh in Indonesia is a staple. It's like a protein staple. It's not a meat substitute. It can be a meat substitute, but it is not solely a meat substitute. And I think that's a really important part of our branding mostly, is that it can be a very versatile protein in however, and with tofu too, this is the case, right? I feel often the narrative has been that we've been kind of like pigeonholed to one specific kind of lens, and now Reculture Foods wants to like expand that lens. So that's through access and like creating more opportunities for people to enjoy tempeh and other soy products and make it joyful and exciting and yummy.
Thank you very much for sharing, Eric. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's so interesting seeing your journey to where you both are today, whether it's like, first you're just, kind of thinking about the element of convenience and everything, but then ultimately it's now being able to kind of fulfill that part of your childhood that didn't have that accessibility. Now it's like, for any family, it's not so much of a hassle to be able to get it, allowing you to be able to go to people, especially if you've had that reclamation is such a huge part of, making our spaces meaningful and the meals that we eat meaningful, and kind of staying connected to where we or our predecessors came. So I love to bring that whether it was intentionally in the beginning or something that you eventually found out, it's a way to connect to it. Something that I want to ask both of you next, and maybe I'll start with Debbie to kind of flip it up a little bit. For you both, when you are thinking about either tempeh or tofu products and trying to bring it out to wider audiences or trying to increase the accessibility, what are things that whether it's Reculture Foods or what are some strategies that you're doing that you can share about trying to share it? And maybe this is something that other Asian American food professionals can also think about. So what are some ways that you're strategizing to share it out that are maybe even some of the challenges that you face as well?
I love that question, Julie, because I feel like that's my business partner, Melati, and I, both Indonesian American, we're always kind of asking this question around sharing. And I think that's the key word here, mostly because there is a little bit of a steep learning curve with tempeh. And I think there is a real need to think about how do we create more access and also just sharing this product more generally. What I've learned is that people really respond to a brand that they feel deeply connected to. And we want to do something a little bit fresh and different at Reculture Foods. Mostly, and I think this is maybe the last part of the panel, but a big part of it is like community making and ways that we can connect through food, connect through the stories that we tell around the dinner table, and mostly about a product that's actually extremely storied. Like, this is a very historical superfood that fed thousands of soldiers during World War II, that prevented famine and hunger. And so stories, I feel, and community making have been two key ways that we share this amazing food. There is this term, if you see one of our zines, we are not selling the zines now, but we'll be at other community events and we'll have zines. We have this little essay that my friend Sam Rio wrote, and the word is called nongkrong. And it's this Indonesian word. Sure, I love that. It's this Indonesian word that is kind of like the fine arts of wasting time, or like being together, chit-chatting and yapping. Like it's just no agenda. You just come over and you just nongkrong, you know? You just like come together in community. And we're trying to find ways that we can just do that organically with pre-culture foods.
That's amazing. I think as Hodo's grown, so Fed was talking about the livelihoods. So like when we were trying to figure out ways of resonating outside of our backyard, like in the Bay Area, where a lot of people know Hodo, like when we're going to all different parts of the country, we followed a few different paths. So one was basically the vegan trail. The other was the craft beer trail, where there's craft breweries and microbrews. Like they kind of understood craft and kind of just that whole concept, and they had appreciation for doing something with care. So we were finding like the Boulders and the Burlington Vermonts. It was like that cross section. And the third piece was basically the kind of the foodie trail. So going from San Francisco to LA to New York to Portland, Maine, but basically where there are really nice restaurants, where there's well-traveled folks who have been to Asia, they've been to Japan, they've been to Taiwan, they've been to China, they've been to Hong Kong, they've been to Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, wherever. There's a familiarity and curiosity and a desire for food that they've actually tried when they're traveling. So that's another piece that we try to sink into. So at the end of the day, it really is about flavor experience. The food has to taste good, it has to taste great, it has to really hook people, it really has to kind of spark those taste buds and get those endorphins going. Then it has to be approachable and kind of understandable, because folks all the time are like, what do I do with tofu? Like, how do I cook this? How do I flavor it? Do I chop it? Whatever. So we have a lot of ways. We want to make it fun and approachable and actually easy. So we pre-cut, we pre-season, we take a lot of the work out of it, right? So that's been one other strategy that we've taken. And the other piece is like, people don't necessarily associate tofu with fun, so we try to have fun with it. So Marissa and our social media team, if you go to our website, shout out, tons of videos, and folks are doing all these amazing things. They take tofu to like a grater, like a cheese grater, or they take tofu and they make pizza fillings out of it and chilies. So it's really breaking down that approach that it doesn't have to be just Asian. It could be Mexican, it could be Californian, it could be Italian, or it could be Southern US, it could be Texan. So tofu, just like any protein, whether it's tempeh or chicken or meat, protein that's not flavored, it'll take on the flavor of whatever you add to it. So something's just getting people comfortable with that. I think the last piece, which I like to do, is like, how do you break down certain stigmas? One is just treated as like another protein, and that's a big concept that we're really trying to push. And it's a conversation that we have constantly with our retail partners. So whether it's like a place like Rainbow, or Berkeley Bowl, or Whole Foods, or even Safeway, Andronico's, or Texas HEB, or Meijer in Michigan, or Publix in Florida, we're constantly trying to talk to them about, tofu or tempeh, it's just another protein. And you can have it as a substitute, but you can also have it as a complement. And you guys have these together. So it really starts with one meal, one plate at a time, just kind of move the right? And they're super up with that, which we love. So that's one way of just putting that message in all different parts of the country.
Really love both your answers here, because I think both of you kind of talked about this concept of accessibility. For you, Eric, it's making it accessible and making it actually kind of easy for people to get engaged with, because I feel like a lot of times we think, it's easy to have like a burger here in the United States, but really you have to go about seasoning, you have to know how to cook it, and really it's like, tofu can kind of be the same way, but we really just kind of it's cultivated in our minds just through years and decades of how it's accessible to us. So finding a way to make tofu more accessible and kind of familiar and fun is huge. And then for you, Becky, it's like connecting it to our history as well. It's like when you know the history behind why foods are why they continue to stay, what they supported, and I think that makes it all the more meaningful to continue that on too. So I really love that kind of concept of accessibility, whether it's making it accessible in terms of the way that you produce it and market it, or whether it's connecting it to stories that are really interesting and meant to make emotionally accessible. That will take us into our kind of final section where we're going to talk a little bit about the Asian American community identity. So, in doing your work, you both kind of touched on a little bit, whether it's your history or your kind of culture today. In what ways does your work today connect you to the Asian American community? Whether it's personally or it's like this, how has doing this work really connected you to the Asian American identity or the Asian American community as a whole?
So I think for me, as with our CEO and myself, we're really and one other member of our sales team, we are all of color, and our broker network, the people that we present to, usually are not Asian. They're usually Caucasian but they're not Asian. Very rarely. It's literally the minority. It's the rarity. It's the outlier. So we're constantly out front in environments trying to communicate and connect and resonate with folks that look different from us and they're from different parts of the country. So we're constantly just trying to make that connection that, hey, we're just like you, we're just like, we have fun, we're very casual. I think if there's something that we try to do in our presentation, we try to make everything informal, regardless of how big the customer is. We want it to be as casual as possible, so it's really a conversation. So I think for us, it's we're constantly out trying to make that connection to us as a company, to our brand, and to our products. And just getting people comfortable with it. And the last week, we want them to try the products. So we always send samples, we ask them how to try it, and we love hearing, we're hearing this more and more, that the people we're on the other side of the table with, they'll say, I love tofu. And we're getting that more and more. 10 years ago, we would hardly hear that. But now, it's pretty consistent. And so we hear that more and more. So it's really showing now how just more familiar people are with products like those.
With this question, I think what's really important is to start a little bit of why I started Greek culture, which we talked a little bit already. But more importantly, it was a way for me to bridge my understanding of what it means to be an Indonesian Californian diasporic person living here. And then also really bridged my relationship with my parents and myself. So I feel like it really starts with the personal first. It really stems from the stories and how you want to share your stories, and then it moves outward. My favorite compliment that I do get when people try our tempeh is that, wow, it doesn't taste like anything I've ever tasted before, like at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. And then also another compliment that follows that's really awesome is there are these really amazing flavors, nuanced flavors that kind of remind me of home. And that response feels really intimate and also really incredible. It's an honor that I can bring you there, or a sense that can take you back home. And so there are just deep ways that I feel like I've connected with tempeh consumers in my community, in the Asian American organizing or community space, through food and through the sharing of food, but mostly the act of just being in each other's presence and connecting and seeing each other's existence, especially. So that has been really key in this community sense.
Want to try your tempeh now?
Yes, please try some. We have a booth in the other room.
Yeah, I love seeing the tempeh out there in the audience, and then logos, of course, back there as well. But I love kind of the shared theme that you both talked about, building bridges, whether it's building bridges in your own culture, connecting cultures, building bridges there as well. All right. I'm gonna prompt with my question that I'll ask, so you have a little time to think about it as I talk. So the question that I'll ask now is first, is there anything else that you want to share as we come to the end of our panel? And then in addition to, where can people find your products? Not just here, but of course, out after the Soy Tofu Festival today. And so, just as Eric and Penny get the text to think about that, kind of all these things that we've heard that are really important is that food connects, whether it's to other people, to our own identities, and I think that's a really big thing that our festival tries to do is by empowering food professionals to really share their food, but also to connect with as well. Hopefully that was a little, I bought you a little time to be able to think about your answers there. Eric, I'll start with you, Eric. So what are any other things that you'd like the audience to know? And in addition, where can people find more products?
Well, we want to thank all of you for being here today. We have a booth there. You can say hi to Leah, and we have our newest products there. We have a teriyaki tofu and a Thai red curry tofu. And we're really lucky in the Bay Area. Bay Area, we've been around 20 years now, it's kind of nuts. Maybe one question is, how many in the audience have heard of Hodo before? Wow, that's amazing. So if we're on the East Coast, we're probably 5 hands up. So we're still this is our backyard. So it's really home for us. So you probably don't know where to get our products, right? You can get us at Safeway, at Whole Foods, Chipotle, you can go to Rainbow, you can go to all these places. Like the farmer's market every Saturday. The farmer's market is where you can get our soy milk still, special order, and specialty dubas, so you have to put your order in through our website. I think that orders at HodoFoods.com. But then the other piece is restaurants. There's some amazing restaurants that use our tofu. Slanted Door, State Bird Provisions, Kin Cow, Chipotle, Sweet Green, any Sweet Green in California, that's our tofu that we use. So we're really lucky to have a lot of displays. And then if you work at LinkedIn or Apple or Facebook or Google, they all have our tofu account here. So if you work in any of those places, you're eating our tofu. So.
I just wanted to share mostly that this is really the launch and birth of Free Cultures kind of happening in real life. So if folks have heard of the La Cocina Incubator program here in San Francisco, they help incubate several amazing restaurants and food businesses, consumer packaged goods. We are an alum or graduate of the La Cocina Business Program, and we have been in research and design for almost 9 to 10 months. So we're launching this month, and I just want to give a huge, just a lot of gratitude and appreciation for Nichibei and all the staff and volunteers. Yay, give it up for them. They've been really amazing. Yeah, and it just feels awesome to be here, sharing in this panel also with Hodo and Eric. Hodo really paved the way for a lot of soy products now coming up, because I don't have to really tell them what soy products really are. You did so much hard work for the rest of us in our community, so big appreciation there. But yeah, you are welcome to check us out at the booth across the hallway here. We are going to start selling at the Temescal Farmers Market at the end of June in Oakland. So we'll be there actually every other Sunday, so hope to see you on one of our Sundays. And then we also have this really amazing and exciting collaboration with Other Avenues Grocery Cooperative. They're based in Outer Sunset. They're our first grocery account. It's super exciting. And we're throwing a launch party with them on July 19. And there will be a DJ, and some dancing and fun. But yeah, we're really excited to also work with cooperatives and real folks who have been here for a long time in San Francisco holding it down for us. So please come check us out. Thank you.
I just want to add, Other Avenues Co-op, that was one of our first retailers way back in the day. So it's amazing that those businesses are here that support them. local businesses through the countryside.
Yes, love the shop, love the advocates, and yeah. Thank you so much, Eric and Debbie, for being on the panel and sharing such meaningful perspectives and views. And I think one theme that I want to end on to is kind of as Eric and Debbie talked about. It's they both, in their own ways and at different stages, have paved the way for others to come after them. And so you never know, like the work that you're doing to support others in your community, it really serves others coming after you. You don't know how much impact you can have on future generations. So I think coming out today as a food festival, you being here today, whether you're a food professional, whether you are a volunteer, whether you are just an attendee, you being here validates the importance of these festivals, the importance of these spaces, and things like the Soy Turkey Festival didn't exist 2 decades ago. And I'm excited to see how more festivals like this really can promote not just soy products, but Asian American products continue to come on. So thank you all for validating our experience here today and continuing to pave the way for future generations coming. Thank you, Eric and Debbie, for leading the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Good.